Thanks for joining us for today's episode of The Capitalist Investor. I'm Mark Tepper, as always, joined by the one, the only Diamond Hands, Derek Gabrielson. What's up?
What's up, Mark? How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. Good. So we got kind of a fun show topic put together for today.
Yep.
And I added one. So
Okay.
This is going to be the 6 things you need to consider when hiring a financial advisor.
Yep.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go through. You pulled the first 5 of these from a Forbes article. So we'll kind of chat about how we feel about that as we go through it. And I added one at the end, which I really think is a question that every single prospective client needs to ask of any financial advisor they're considering working with.
Right.
All right. So number 1, decide what part of your financial life you need help with.
Where should you start when you're looking for a financial advisor, right? I usually like to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So figuring out what you need
Yep.
is really kind of the critical first step, because you probably hear this a lot. Everyone's financial situation is different, but it happens to also be true. So someone who is approaching retirement is going to have different planning needs than someone who is 31 years old.
And you may not need a comprehensive financial plan, depending on where you are in what stage of your life you're in.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, you may have a concern about your investment portfolio, and maybe you have come to realize, I'm too busy. I want to enjoy my life, my kids, my grandkids, whoever it may be. The last thing I want to do is sit in front of CNBC and Fox Business all day long and try to manage my own portfolio.
Yep.
Right. And if you make a decision that the only thing that you need help with is your investments, why would you go to a firm that specializes in estate planning?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly right. You would not want to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, square peg, round hole kind of deal. So you want to make sure that you identify where you need help. And you may need help in a few different areas. And I think the best thing to do, D, is to prioritize those areas, right? So number 1 might be investments. Number 2 might be, I want to know what my number is. How much do I need to save so that I can retire? Number 3 might be life insurance if you're younger, right? And you kind of prioritize those as 1, 2, 3, and you use that to find a firm that kind of aligns with those priorities.
Yeah, absolutely right. We're doing the show today because we want to help educate people, right? We understand that we're not going to be a perfect fit for absolutely everyone who is out there.
Right.
So we're understanding that from our perspective as a business. We're trying to help the consumers, the people who are out there looking for an advisor, to kind of hone in on that advisor that will be right for them.
God, that was awesome. So you just teed this up for me. Wasn't even thinking about this, but I'm going to go into it. As you are interviewing financial advisors, to kind of piggyback off what you just said, D, a good financial advisor is going to be asking a series of questions to qualify and or disqualify you, right? Because we don't work with everyone. Not everyone's the right fit for us. So if you're sitting across the table from a financial advisor you're considering working with, and they're just selling you on how great they are, and they're not trying to figure out if you're the right fit for them, if they can have a big impact on you and what you're looking for, you're sitting at the wrong table.
Yeah.
So it works both ways, and a good meeting with a financial advisor you're interviewing will work both ways. There will be questions and qualifying and disqualifying going both ways.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was talking with someone just last week, and I kind of, alluded to that fact, right? Hey, I'm basically, I'm not here to try to sell you a bunch of stuff. I'm here to try to learn about your situation, because I might not be the guy. That's basically kind of what I said. And they were almost kind of shocked that, that I said that,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not the normal sales process, right?
Right.
So it's because the firms that, in my opinion, you kind of want to work with, they would operate like that. They're not trying to gather as many clients as they possibly can because
Yeah.
they know that's not going to be good for them or the client long term.
Exactly. Yep. All right. So moving on to number 2, learn about the different types of financial advisors. So essentially, how are they paid?
Right.
Right. Are you a fiduciary? Things like that. Because we know there's different ways advisors can be paid. They can be fee-only advisors, which is basically you pay them a flat fee.
Right.
Now, you might pay them $5,000 a year, or whatever it is they charge. You might pay them just a one-time financial planning fee and then never talk to them again. And that could be $5,000, $10,000. It all depends on how sophisticated the plan is.
Right.
So there's the flat fee financial advisor. There is the commission-based financial advisor, which, I don't think a lot of people are very fond of anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Because your interests aren't always aligned with their interests. They're selling you a product and making a commission from it. And then there's, the financial advisors like us that are more asset under management fee-based, right? So, typically all of our services are included in our AUM fee, whether that's 1% or 2% or 0.5%, whatever that fee is, depending on the firm you're talking to, our interests are aligned. If we grow our clients' portfolio, we get paid more.
Right.
If we lose our clients' money, it takes food off our table too, right? So we have a vested interest in growing, but also protecting that portfolio.
Right.
But, Dee, let's talk briefly about being a fiduciary, right? Because that's a buzzword that I really can't believe people are using it anymore. Like I heard a Ken Fisher commercial where they're talking about that. I thought by now everyone would know what a fiduciary is, but maybe they don't.
Yep.
So why don't you kind of walk our listeners through what a fiduciary is?
Yeah. So the easiest way to describe what a fiduciary is they need to act in the best interest of their client. So
All the time.
At all times, exactly right. So, Mark and I, we can't do something that is going to be really great for us, but just okay for the client, right? It needs to be the top of the list, the very best options for the client at all times.
Yep.
So that obviously is something that it wasn't always like that, which is kind of shocking to think about. But, as we sit here today, the industry has definitely moved a lot more towards that type of business model versus kind of the commission-based selling of products, typically, mutual funds, loaded mutual funds, and
variable annuities. Those are the big ones.
Yep.
So a lot of those structured notes fall in that category. Some of those private REITs from back in the day. I remember back in like 2009, 2010, I had some new clients that came to us from other firms who were stuck in some private REITs that were completely illiquid, and if they wanted to get out, they were only able to get like 30 or 40 cents on the dollar.
Right.
Very, very high in commissions for the person that sold it to them, but they really didn't work out well for the clients.
And a lot of those types of products, they weren't even you couldn't even get your money out of that investment company. A lot of times they were getting offers like letters in the mail like, hey, we'll buy you out of this investment for
30 cents on the dollar. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's exactly how it worked. It was a third party.
Right.
Hey, we're willing to take on that thing and wait to get paid. If you want your money, here's 30 cents.
Right.
That's not a good deal.
No.
Number 3, choose which financial advisor services you want. Investments, pay off your credit cards, budgeting, insurance, tax planning, retirement planning, estate planning, college planning, the list goes on and on. But, we kind of already talked about this, Dee. The best financial advisors listen to you and they solve your problems.
Right.
So remember the saying, don't paint seagulls in your prospect's picture?
I do not remember that.
I
like it.
I guess you didn't show up for Sandler training for 2 straight days. All right, so if your prospect has a painting, the last thing you want to do is take your prospect's painting and all of a sudden paint a seagull in it that doesn't belong.
Okay, yeah, I got you now.
All right, good. We're on the same page. To relate that back to working with a financial advisor, if you are sitting across the table from a financial advisor and you are talking about how, you can't sleep at night with your investment portfolio. These are, and all of your concerns are surrounding the management of your investment portfolio. And the financial advisor that you're talking to continues to beat the drum on life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance. And it almost seems like, you're wondering, like, is this person even listening to me? If that's the case, run away as fast as you can. They're not listening. They are trying to sell you what they do. They are not listening to your problems and trying to solve your problems. And it's important, as you're sitting across the table from that financial advisor, to know exactly what you want from that financial advisor. And it's important for you to listen and pay attention to the way the conversation goes. Mm-hmm. Because if they keep shifting gears into their own agenda, I don't think you should work with that person.
I completely agree. Absolutely. Because like we said at the beginning of this episode, everyone's different, right? And you go to a professional to, like you said, help solve your problems.
Yes.
So if they're not actually listening to those problems to figure out exactly what steps you should take to become more successful, to have a better retirement plan, then it's probably not a good fit for you.
Exactly.
And not all people who are out there making commissions are necessarily, trying to mislead anyone or anything like that. All I'm trying to say is that those particular things that they sell may not necessarily be the perfect fit for your situation.
And let me take it a step further, D. There are fiduciaries who don't sell any products at all. They are fee-based advisors who don't listen. You don't want to work with a financial advisor who doesn't listen.
Right.
Again, you come in saying, I need help with my investments, and then they look at you and they say, all of that's fine and great, but at the end of the day, tax planning is what's most important.
Right.
Dude, you're not listening. Like, you've got your own agenda that you're trying to shove down my throat. I'm out.
Right.
Like, I got to leave. You're not the right fit for me. So it's not just the product salespeople. And so I guess this kind of goes back to, we talked about fiduciary in number 1 or number 2, whichever one we talked about that.
Yep, number 2.
Just because someone's a fiduciary does not mean they're the right fit for you.
Exactly.
A lot of financial advisors like to fall back on that as if it's like God's gift to those people who are looking for financial advisors.
Right.
But I'm a fiduciary. Mic drop. It's not that great. I mean, yes, you want to work with a fiduciary, but you also want to work with a fiduciary who listens to you, who understands your problems and your concerns, who understands your strengths, and who is there to help to fill that gap, and who is there and understands what their priorities are as it relates to working with you to optimize your financial situation.
Absolutely.
That's what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Just because you're a fiduciary, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it in and of itself is not a credential.
No, it's not. It's actually not a credential at all.
In fact, it's not allowed to put it out there as a credential,
Right.
There's rules against that too. So yeah, Mark, that's just a really great point. And, in your example, you mentioned tax planning, right? The fiduciary who's just pushing tax planning. You might not even need any tax planning based on your situation. Your tax planning may be okay as it is. That's really the difference between someone who is listening and someone who is not listening.
Right.
Right. Listen to what that person is saying to you. Use your expert abilities, if you will, to kind of process that, and then give them your recommendations based on what you heard them say.
When I'm talking with a prospective client, there are times where, I think some people may feel like it's an awkward moment of silence, but in actuality, I'm sitting there, I'm kind of scratching my head, I'm thinking, I'm thinking like, do I potentially have a solution for this person's problem?
Right.
Because if I don't, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to wish you the best of luck. And maybe I can refer you to someone else who's going to be better suited at fixing that problem. But I'm always sitting there coming at it from the perspective of, what is this person's problem? And am I the right fit to solve that problem?
Right.
And you can feel that in an interview. You can feel that in a meeting.
Right.
You can also feel when they're trying to push their own agenda on you. And in those situations, you got to run in the opposite direction.
Yep.
Right?
No doubt.
All right, number 4, decide how much you can pay for your financial advisor, or, the go-to question, what's your fee?
Right.
Right? Love that
Classic.
question. Love it.
Classic.
So, look, man, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this one. I'm just going to say the average fee roundabout is 1% per year. If you have less money, it might be higher. If you have more money, it might be lower. But let's just put a stake in the ground and say it's 1% per year.
Right.
Okay. I don't know how many more questions you need to ask beyond that. Right. I mean, if it's somewhere around 1%, okay, these guys are in the ballpark. If they're charging you 3%, I would then want to know why.
Right.
Why are you so much? And they might be worth it. They might be worth it. Like us, as an example, our asset under management fee is not just to pay for the management of your portfolio.
Right.
It's all inclusive. It also includes your estate planning, your tax planning, your tax preparation. Like, it's all your financial planning. It's all inclusive.
Right.
So we don't charge 3%, but if we did, and we then said, well, here's why, now you have a valid decision that you need to make, right? It's a reasonable decision. So 1% is not 1%, is not 1%, is not 1%. They're different. You need to know not really just what your fee is, but, okay, what am I getting in exchange for that fee?
Absolutely.
Because if it's around 1%, that's fine. That's industry average.
Yep. And it's talking about knowing what you need, right? And doing a little research to try to figure that out. Maybe, like we said up top, not everyone needs all those services, right?
Yeah.
So again, I've had meetings where I've gone through all these questions. They're very, very, very fee conscious. Maybe they're younger and don't need a lot of this other stuff. We talk about someone like Vanguard,
Yeah.
right? Who is going to be more of a passive manager.
Yep.
Might be part of an overall package. Hey, I'm a moderately aggressive investor, and you're going to pay a small fee for them to kind of turn over your portfolio every quarter. That may be perfectly fine and all some people need, right?
Yeah.
But that fee compared to a fee of someone like what we do is not an apples to apples comparison.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, just kind of understand the job description that's attached to that fee.
Yeah. All right. So continuing to move on. Number 5, research financial advisors. And there's a number of ways you can research financial advisors. You can go to the CFP websites. You can go and look up and see if they have any disclosures on BrokerCheck. If they do, I probably wouldn't work with them. It'd be tough for them to even have a relationship with a custodian if you have a disclosure. So a disclosure means you did something wrong and you had to put it on your ADV or on your FINRA BrokerCheck thing. But look, I think the best thing to do to research financial advisors is to ask your financial advisor for a CV or a resume. Now, I remember when I first started in this business, I had someone ask me that, and I'm like, no, I don't have a resume. I'm not looking for a job, right? But, you are trying, all right. So when a prospect comes in to meet with me, I'm not trying to earn their business. Let's be crystal clear.
Right.
As I've already said 27 times throughout this show, I am there to figure out what their problems are and whether or not I am the right fit to solve that problem. I'm not trying to earn their business.
Right.
Okay. I want to figure out if I'm the right guy. That's it. And I think that's the very noble, high integrity, honest way of doing business.
Right.
Okay. But you and I both know, and all the advisors at our firm, we have developed a one-page bio sheet, which is essentially our resume. Now, it looks a hell of a lot prettier than a resume. We didn't do it in Microsoft Word.
Right.
It's not a bunch of text.
Clip art.
We got pictures and graphics. Like it's pretty cool. But it basically walks the prospect through who we are, where we came from, and what we've done.
Right.
Right. Where did we go to school? What associations do we belong to? Have we appeared on Fox Business and CNBC? Have we contributed to Forbes and Kiplinger's and Money Magazine? That to me is that's a great starting point to ask your potential financial advisor for a CV or a resume.
Yep.
Now ours just happens to be pretty. But that's exactly what it is, dude. It's a resume, right? And it's a talking point, right? It gives us the ability to present that to a prospective client and just kind of walk them through the story of us, who we are, and why we do what we do, right? Which kind of leads to, another thing that I think is great to find out. And that's the question of, financial advisor, what's your story? How'd you get into this business, or why are you in this business? That's a great question that you should want to hear the answer to.
Right.
I just kind of fell into it because it paid more than the other career options I was choosing. Bad answer.
Probably not the best.
Cross that dude off the list, right? Like, why? Why did you get into this business? Well, I'm competitive, or I didn't have a lot of money growing up and I saw what it was like to not have money growing up, and I wanted to make sure that, my kids were better off and my clients were better off. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a why, And I think as you're asking for that resume or CV, the appropriate question is that, why are you in this business?
Yep, for sure. And that's brings me to another point I wanted to fit in here. Hopefully I'm not stealing some of your thunder, but in those conversations, you also have to have kind of a good gut feeling about someone, right?
Yeah.
That I think is kind of a good rule when making any decisions, is to, get the facts, talk to the people, but hopefully when you're having those conversations with a potential financial advisor, hopefully you're getting a good vibe from that person. Hey, I could work well with that person. Hey, we have similar personalities or similar values, whatever it may be. If you only might want to make the decision once if you can possibly help it. So, being able to picture yourself working with that person long term, I think is also an important step, an important thing to check off the list, if you will.
I agree. All right, so I said 6. I think we're going to bump this up to 7 because I just came up with another one. So, all right, so we're up to 7. So number 6, make sure they answer your questions directly. We used to have an advisor here. You know who he is. I'm not going to name names, but I don't think he ever answered any question directly. It was a circular argument with him. He would just talk in circles and talk in circles and talk in circles, and eventually the people forgot what they asked.
Right.
Don't fall victim to that. Like, you got to see through that, people. You got to see through that. Like, if someone asks you a question, they might say, like, all right, hey, you're on page 10. I'm still on page 5. I'll get there. Make sure they eventually get there, though.
Right.
Make sure they do get to page 10 and they answer your question. What you can't allow to happen is for them to go, well, hey, anyways, this and that and this and that and this, blah, 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 and then they never answer your question and you forget it.
Right.
You got to see through that. That is not someone you should feel comfortable working with in the long run.
Right.
Because they're going to be in charge of your money. And when you ask them about a poor performance in a given year and then they talk in circles, you're not going to be very happy with that.
Right.
All right. So make sure they answer your questions directly. Number 7. This is probably one of my favorite questions other than the why are you in this business. Number 7, you should ask any prospective financial advisor you are interviewing, what makes you different from your competition? If their answer is weak, they are a commodity. There's nothing special about them. You might as well keep looking.
Right.
You might as well keep looking until you find someone who can articulate their value prop, who can articulate what makes them different from their competition, and see if it strikes a nerve with you. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, like I just said, trusting your gut. But that is, if you don't have a value prop, your value prop could potentially be price, right? Hey, we're doing the same thing as everyone else, but we're, 10 basis points lower in our fee, right?
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of people out there. We talked about the fee, what's your fee? That is really their only argument.
Yeah.
We're inexpensive, Okay. Well, you have to get down a couple levels to see if inexpensive translates to good for you.
Right.
So if you don't have, if the person that you're interviewing doesn't have a good value prop that kind of comes naturally through the flow of conversation, that could potentially be a red flag.
Yeah.
Because I know if I'm just walking down the street and I bump into Mark Tepper and I say, hey, what makes you guys different than everyone else? I know Mark's going to have a pretty good answer for that, right?
Exactly. Because I believe in what we do. Right. I believe we're different. Mm-hmm. In my heart of hearts, I know we are different. You mentioned, a lot of the people out there they're doing all the same stuff. And if they want to win the business, they got to compete on price.
Right.
That's a loser's game. Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump out on a limb here. I'm going to say that 90% of our competition falls into that camp. Mm-hmm. 90%.
That's a good number.
They all do the same thing. Then you've got a small select group of maybe 10% of the firms out there where they literally do something a little different. Mm-hmm. Or maybe something really, really different that really hits home with you, that really, where you can look at it and say, man, and maybe it's just their value system. Mm-hmm. Maybe you just understand, one of the things that we'll explain when we talk about our investment process is, we've got 4 CFAs on the team. We've got 2 CMTs on the team. The CFAs are expensive people. It's a lot of money going towards human capital to make sure we've got the smartest people managing our portfolios. We've got 5 Bloomberg terminals, which are $25,000 a year each. We buy investment research from all these different resources. We do all this stuff. Right. And even though we do all that stuff, we cannot guarantee that we are going to have better performance than our competition.
Right.
But what we can guarantee is that nobody's going to outwork us. Nobody. Nobody's going to try harder to win for their clients than us. Nobody.
Absolutely.
And for some people, that's going to resonate with them. They're going to say, man, these guys are hard workers. My father growing up, he had dirt on his clothes every day. I value that. I appreciate that. So, that's an example of something where it's just their values are aligned with yours, Other things are, we're a one-stop shop, right? So we do everything under one roof. We have the in-house CPA, the in-house attorney. So we've got a lot of differentiators that I'm very, very proud of. And if you're proud of how your firm is different, you will be able to easily and effectively articulate that. Mm-hmm. If you don't know how you're different from your competition, you talk in circles, right?
Yep. Well, you just proved my point right there. You didn't know I was going to ask you that, and you nailed it.
Boom.
Hey, nice job.
Mic drop. All right, man. So that wraps up today's show. As always, if you have any questions, info@swpconnect.com. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends about us. I haven't even looked at our stats lately, but we do want to make sure we continue to grow our audience. It is really one of the best ways that we can continue to provide good advice and just have good conversations. Sometimes these shows aren't even about advice. They're just conversations.
Yeah.
Conversations that need to be had given whatever's going on at that point in time. And for all of our listeners, I just want to let you know, this is not meant to be a one-way relationship, where it's a one-way conversation. We want to hear back from you. If you have questions, if you have topics you want us to cover, email us, info@swpconnect.com. We want to hear what you want to talk about. Let's open up the conversation. Let's make this better. Maybe we need to roll out a capitalist investor Twitter account or something like that to facilitate the conversations a little better. Mm-hmm. Chris, maybe you got to help us out with that, bud. But maybe that's a good way for us to get the two-way relationship or communication opened up a little easier.
Yeah, because towards the beginning we got several emails and we used at least a couple of those topics for shows.
Yep. Also, 5-star reviews. You write that 5-star review, you screenshot it, send it over to us. We'll send you some swag. We're in the process right now, D. We're getting some polo shirts. So I know they're not as awesome as the Nike hoodies. We will bring the Nike hoodies back in the fall, but it is it's not fall right now. Although who knows when this will be released? Maybe it will be fall. Maybe we will have the hoodies. But in any event, send us a screenshot and we'll let you know what swag we have at that point in time, and we'll send you the coolest stuff we got.
Yep.
All right, as always, thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.
The opinions expressed in the podcast are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any investment, legal, financial, or tax strategy. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. Please consult a qualified professional about your individual needs.